Hey, good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a good midweek today. This is Julie Banat, Fresh Lotus Design. We are going to do Medusa yarn tonight. So, we're just going to have some fun and spin some really easy, fun art yarn to add to your repertoire. This is real similar to something I've demonstrated before. Well, not really demonstrated, no. I actually just did a little video and put it up. It's been a while though, so I thought it was time to show this technique again, and this time it's a little different than the last time I showed it, so I'll show a couple different ways to do this. I'm just going to give it a second here. I'm a little early just to make sure everything works. I'm going to try to find my comments here, which I never can find. Okay. I have 8 people. That's very good. That's good. So, no, I'm not seeing comments. Hang on, I have another idea. I am going to open another view of this so that I can see anything you guys might tell me. So give me just a sec here. Oh, there it is. There it is. So how is everybody tonight? Is everybody getting through this freezing cold weather? Hopefully. I hope so. All right. Second here, guys. Just gonna make sure everything is good to go. Okay, looks like it is. Hello and welcome to Medusa yarn spinning. So if you guys are new to spinning art yarns, or even if you've spun a few and you're just looking for new ones, this is worth its weight in gold because it's so easy and everybody can do it. And it actually teaches 2 techniques. If you're really new to spinning, this one you may not have heard of, which is a chain ply. So this technique will teach chain plying as well as add-ins into your chain ply, and that's what makes this really fun. So what is Medusa yarn? Well, I will show you here. I kind of went down the rabbit hole with Medusa yarn because I had so much fun spinning it. But what it is, let me get it right here, it is a 3-ply yarn that is chain plied. And then into the 3 plies, we weave these little sections of locks here. And depending on the interval, how close you space your locks, you can get this really, really hairy looking, or it can be just sparse every so often. I try to do them, I would say about every 8 inches or so. Let me see here, just so you can get an idea. Well, I guess it's about 12 inches. So we've got one here, and we've got one here. So that looks like about 12 inches. But you can do them every 6 inches if you want. Now, trying to get your sections short can be a challenge, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. So this is what we're doing. And the first thing that we need to do is get your locks ready, because we're going to be weaving in locks. So I'm going to tip the camera down and show you what I have here. This is Teeswater fleece. Teeswater has a tendency to have these wonderful long locks that I really like to work with. I don't actually need them quite this long, but this is kind of, where am I here? This is kind of an average length for a Teeswater lock, and I like this length. It's, what is this? It's about 8 inches long, but my goodness, I've seen some all the way up to 20 inches. They're just crazy long sometimes. But this is a really good length to work with, this length and even shorter. Now, when you get locks that are hand dyed, a lot of times they may seem like they're clumpy, or, you know, like in clods here. And, oh, they're felted, they're felted. No, they're not. They're not felted at all. But what you have to do when you're pulling locks is sometimes you have to pull them in a certain order. So sometimes one is on top of another one. And so if you pull one that's down below, you can't quite get it. You need to pull the ones that are on top first. So you just grab the lock by the tip. Oh, I'm out of the camera here. Grab the lock by the tip and give it a pull, and then just lay it to the side. Now for this technique, I like my locks to be about this thick. And sometimes that's 2 locks just held together at the cut edge, and that's fine. You don't have to separate them all out, but this is about a good thickness, a good size for this. Okay, now I already have, of course, a bunch here that are pulled. Now you're going to start with, well, you can start with whatever kind of singles you want, really. I started with just a nice kind of medium-ish, out of the camera here, medium-ish size single here. I really wasn't going for evenness or anything like that. I was just trying to go for something that would show off this really pretty comb top that I used. This is a beautiful Loden green. I just can't see all these colors. There's Loden green, and there's some gold in there, and some white tussa silk, and really pretty colors. So, all right, let me get back on here. I better go back and make sure I'm not missing any comments here. Oh, good. Hey. Hi, Crystal. Diana. All right. Okay, I'm seeing comments. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. All right. So I'm glad then that I decided to do the demo this way. I'm going to show everything right from the very beginning, okay? Instead of just in the middle of a chain ply, say, hey, this is how you add this in. So here, this was something that, you know, sometimes things that seem so obviously easy just are not for me. I'm kind of one of those people. I don't know if it's common sense that escapes me or whatever, but there's probably a different way to do this, but this is the way I figured out how to start a chain ply. So I take the beginning of my yarn that I'm going to be plying. I'm going to fold it in half here for about 6 inches, I would say. So like so. You're going to tie that in a knot, okay? And it doesn't, I mean, it just doesn't, just a knot. Just a knot where you have a loop. That's the most important thing. We need this here loop right here. Oh, this backwards camera, I have a hard time. All right, now that you have your loop ready in your yarn, we need to set it up on your bobbin. Now my leader, I always have as a loop. I know some people don't. Some people like a leader that's just straight yarn and then they spin onto it. I like a loop because it for sure gives me a secure place where I can start. I am going to take this loop that I made and I'm going to put it through the loop on my leader, okay? And then, just to show you here, I am ready to go into a chain ply, okay? So let's get this on the wheel a little bit here. And since I haven't started this at all, I don't have anything on this bobbin yet. So, okay. All right. So I am holding my loop, okay? And here's the rest of the yarn. Now I'm going into my yarn supply. Now the secret to chain plying is just like a big long crochet chain. You've got your loop, you're gonna grab this strand, hold open the loop, and pull. And then what you will have is a 3-ply yarn, okay? So let's get it going here. And this is another thing too, as you're getting into spinning art yarns, you're gonna find that your wheel also needs adjustment. Your wheel is gonna have to be tightened down because you need a real strong grab. So if you're used to doing Scotch tension with just a real light take-up, when you start doing art yarns, you're gonna want a stronger take-up, something that can really pull that yarn onto the bobbin. And then you want to adjust your tension, ease off back from that. So you don't want to start out with no take up and then try to tighten up. You want to do it the other way around. Get it really pulling on strong and then loosen back, okay? All right, so we did our first little chain, and we still have our loop. We still have our next ply here. So we're going to pull it again, pull that loop through the other loop. Okay, straighten it out. There we go. Hit your on button. All right, now we're going to start putting something in to this little space here. The beauty of chain plying, and really two plying as well, you can add things in to your plying and it stays because the ply, of course, locks it into place. The beauty of a three ply, though, is you have three plies to weave into, which means you have even more stability. So let's go for it here. Let me see, this one's a little big. Let me try one that's a touch smaller here. Now, since these are nice and long, and the idea with Medusa yarn is to leave it hanging out, leave the tail hanging out like this. There we go. We're only going to weave in about the first inch or so. So you're going to take your cut edge of your lock, okay, because you want your pretty curly end hanging out. So you start with your cut edge, and you're going to put it underneath and in between your plies. So let me get the camera down here closer, if I can. Closer, closer. There we go. Hang on. Okay. So you've got your cut edge. You've got your three plies. I'm going into the middle, over the middle strand, and then push it up, because this twist right here will hold that really good. And now that you've got that in there, start weaving. We're going to go down and then around and over and under. I don't want to get my hand in the way. Now you kind of have to do this with one hand. I wish there was a way. Somehow we'll figure out a way to like try to hold this strand here and then maybe use both hands. But this is all we're going to do. This is it. Because we want this to hang out like so. Now, let's take our camera back a little bit here so you can see again. Now we're going to proceed with our chain ply because we've got our loop and we've got our next loop ready to be made. So we're going to pull this through. And then again, this is where you determine how far apart you want your little tails, because the closer you make your chains, the closer your little locks will be. So I did that one kind of far. I'm going to do it closer next time. So here we are. We're back at our ply here. Now I'm going to go back to you guys to see if I'm missing any questions. You make it look so easy. Oh, it is easy. Hi, Barbara. Vicky from British Columbia, Canada. Lori from Tennessee. Oh, are you cold down there? Are you cold up in Canada? We're cold everywhere. Oregon, Canada, yes. Oh, it's so cool. I just love it. The internet is amazing. All right. Okay, sorry. I didn't want to leave you guys behind. I just wanted to see where I was at. Okay, so we're back to our three ply here. So we're going to take another lock from my big pile of locks here. This looks like a good length, or a good thickness, I should say. Now here we go. We're going to put in between the left leg and the middle, over that middle ply, and then push it up so that it's nice and tight. And now we're going to weave over, under, over. Oh, I always get my hand in the way. So I'm trying to get it out of the way so you can see it. Over, under, and that's enough because I want that to hang out. So I'm holding it here so that it stays nice and tight. It doesn't have to. It can be loose and loopy if you want. I just get into a habit. We're going to pull out our next chain, and this time I'm only going to do it that far. Okay? And then start up your wheel again. In it goes, and then there we go. Now it's important not to get too much twist right in here, because you have to maintain a little bit of space here in order to do, you know, your weaving and your over under and all that good stuff. Now, I hope that you guys are thinking of creative ways to use this technique, because yes, just about anything that you can manipulate like this, you can put into your yarn. So think about feathers. Think about short pieces of yarn that you have strung beads on, like art beads, like those really cool dichroic glass beads that those fancy glass blowers make. Those are awesome. That would be cool. Just a little short piece of yarn, like maybe yay long, slide the bead onto it, fold the yarn in half, and then stick it in here and weave it in. Why not? So here we go. Doing another one. That's nice and close. Now, yes, this technique takes a while. This is like Natalie Redding says. Natalie Redding said, this is why these yarns are expensive. And if you sell your yarn, you should never feel bad about charging what it's worth, because this technique takes a lot of time. You're only doing, well, depending on how you space your locks, you're only doing, you know, four inches at a time, maybe. So, but imagine how beautiful this would be if I had 50 yards of yarn with locks hanging off every 4 or 5 inches. That'd be awesome. Maybe that's what this will be. Like I say, my other ones I did at about 12 inches, just because I was excited about the technique and I just got carried away. So think about what else did I say? Buttons. You can do the same thing with buttons. String buttons on short pieces of yarn. Fold the yarn in half and weave it into your ply, just like this. Now, another thing that's really cool and really dramatic is to take a larger core spun yarn. Oh, I should have brought up the bobbin I've been working on. It's so cool. Imagine if you had a thick core spun yarn that you then chain plied and added in really, really big locks. That would be clown yarn. Yes, it would. That'd be total clown yarn. There is no such thing as clown yarn. But that would definitely be fun. And of course the question always comes, where do you use these yarns? How can these yarns be used? Seriously, what on earth would you do with these yarns? Well, of course, there's always the go-to answer, weaving. Weaving, 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 of course. It's just such a fantastic way to show off hand-spun yarns, is weaving, of course. But even weaving tends to, you know, the warp tends to cover up a lot of these yarns sometimes. But if you're doing this yarn and it is, hang on here, binder clips, by the way, nothing better. I love these guys. Usually I can I bind it right up by the orifice, then I don't have any twist going anywhere. But check this out. Which one? I showed you the pink one. This one, it's about the same thickness as the other one, as the pink one I showed you. But when you have a yarn like this, that's bulky but not too bulky, you can do wonderful things with this with knitting. You can knit a cowl, you can knit a scarf, you can do, I'm not sure about crochet because I'm not a crocheter, to be honest, but these yarns are beautiful knitted too, because they're not ginormous. They're reasonably large where we still can work with them that way. But of course, with weaving is phenomenal because the colors of the yarn come out, and of course you pull out these tails and they hang out on top of the fabric. So back to our little fly baby here. So we're ready and set up for another one. Let me go back and make sure I'm not missing any comments, just because I don't want to. Having reverse thrummed some locks in knitting projects, I'd so much rather use yarn with blocks already attached. Oh, I can imagine, yes. Catherine, I have to tell you a story. I was so excited about thrum knitting at one time, and I love knitting. I tend to go in spurts, and I'm kind of off from it right now. Poor Patrick, he's waiting for socks, and I got to get back to it. But I was excited about knitting with thrums, with little locks like this. By the time I got done doing about an inch of knitting in these thrums, I had completely felted the locks, and it was this globby mess. And it was orange of all colors. It had to be orange, you know. It couldn't be just, you know, something subtle and gentle, you know. It was ugly and it was orange. But yeah, that is actually a very good point. If they're already in there, then, you know, you're going to have a little less of that happening. So yeah, I felted the heck out of them. Yeah, I opened up my hand, my sweaty hand, and it was a mess. I think I saved it. I saved that stuff for posterity, you know, just to look back later and say, ha ha, look at that, you know. And yes, your wheel will get tangled up on the locks at some point. If yours doesn't, I'll be surprised. Well, if you have a spinning wheel that's dedicated for art yarns, it probably shouldn't do that, but there we go. All right. I joined a little... Did you talk about pulling locks and what to use as a source? Oh, Michelle, I did at the very beginning, but I can go back into it. No worries. No worries. Okay. Let's see. I have 14 comments, but I can only see a couple here. There we go. I will get back to it, Michelle. I promise. All right, I'm going to get back here to make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. No more hooked up. No more hooked up. Okay. This Teeswater is from the amazing Susan McFarland in Wisconsin. Her Teeswater is just so nice, and you know, she doesn't charge a fortune for it, which I appreciate. This lock is a little skinnier. I probably should have doubled up this guy, but that's okay because it's really close to the next one. So, and we're going to pull out our chain again. Grab it down just a little ways. Start up the wheel. In we go. Now you'll notice too, I'm sure you know if you've spun at all for any length of time, your pull onto the wheel is going to be different when you're starting out with a brand new empty bobbin. When your bobbin is more full, you will not have as much of a pull. And usually the more full the bobbin gets, the more we start clamping down on our tension to make it pull harder. So you'll notice that. And that's why a lot of times for fine spinning, for you know, for little teeny weeny fine spinning, we don't want that tough pull, but sometimes we get it on a brand new bobbin. So that's why they put a core on the bobbin, to eliminate that a little bit. But we certainly don't want to eliminate it for art yarn because we want that pull. Here we go, weaving our lock again. Over, under, over, under. Push it up, pull out the next little yarn here, the next strand, and then the twist locks in the lock. Stop again. So I am not one to work with crazy stuff like feathers. I know some wonderful spinners like Esther Rogers, Lexi Boger. They, oh my goodness, they no holds barred. Anything at all that can be put into yarn. They are fearless, especially Esther, you know, and her Christmas lights that she spun up. I thought that was phenomenal. Just keeping it new and different. I like yarns that you can wear as necklaces. Seriously, you know. You ever see those fancy advertisements for, you know, Noro yarns and those brand name yarns where the models are all chic and they're wearing yarn on their head, and they're not as a hat either. They're just wearing it on there. That's the kind of yarn I like to make. Just really fun, beautiful, different stuff. There's our lock. We are ready to go. Okay. Twisty, twisty. So look at 3-ply, or chain ply, I should say. Look at chain ply as an opportunity to stick things into your yarn. Seriously. You'll never look at chain ply the same way again. You want to look at it like, this is a way for me to secure fun notions and let's see, notions is the term they would use in sewing. Ephemera is the term they would use in scrapbooking. I don't know what we'd call it in spinning. Add-ins, fun stuff in your yarn. There we go. And we're going to pull out our loop again. So the next time you're chain plying, really think about what you're doing and how you could hold that chain open and put things in. I think my son is listening to a Sarah Brightman remix. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Now I also want to show you another effect that you can do with this yarn. Do this one here. We're going to pull out our loop. And when you think of all the elements that go into this yarn, locks and comb top, so think about what you can do with color and how it's applied to the locks or the comb top. For example, if you look at this guy, oops, you see how some strands are completely green, some strands are completely blue, some are chartreuse. When you chain ply, you can take the color that's there, that's in your comb top, and it keeps those colors together. If you were to 3-ply with 3 different bobbins, then you would have a general mishmash mix-up of all the colors in the yarn. But you can take a comb top that is dyed like in a gradient. This one was dyed as a gradient. So it goes from blue to teal to this green, and I think, yeah, those were the 3 colors. I did 3 colors. And when you chain ply, you keep all the colors separate, and they only change color when your comb top changed colors. So that adds another dimension to the yarn. Now this stuff, you know, this is just gonna all be this color, but you can do effects with your comb top too, and that's what I did here. This was lots of fun. Ooh, look at this. So, let me go back and make sure I'm not missing any questions or comments or wonderful things that you guys say. I'll definitely, oh, let me get back to pulling locks, just to give you a refresher. Well, you know what, Michelle, let me tell you, I didn't come up with it, but this is based on a technique that I learned from Susie Brown, which was called the, I think it's the Pick-a-Waka-Waka, the Pick-a-Waka-Waka technique, which is completely weaving in that lock all the way in, and not having any of it hanging out. I didn't do any of that here. I can definitely show that, but it's just a takeoff from that, and it is. I just, when I saw the technique, it was just like it was one of those epiphany moments, you know, where it's like, wow, that's so cool. Anyway, so this is a Teeswater fleece. Again, this is from Susan McFarland. She has beautiful Teeswater. When you get hand-dyed locks, or if you get Teeswater that you're going to dye yourself, don't be dismayed or alarmed if you have these clumps, okay? A lot of times, I know new spinners are terrified of washing a fleece and felting it, and oh, I ruined it. You didn't ruin it. I don't know about other folks, but I mean, yes, I've destroyed fleeces before, don't get me wrong, but it took a lot to really screw up that fleece. I mean, I don't know, I had a hard time felting it, and you know, it just, so, like even this looks like it's pretty stuck together, but it's really not. You just give it a pull. And what you want to do is when you identify your lock, goodness, I hope you can see me. Hang on, let me go back to place where you can see me. There we go. When you identify the lock that you want to pull, let me find one that's, this is a good glob right here. Here's a nice glob. And that glob, is it unusable? Wait, where am I? Here we go. Here we go. Looks kind of unusable. Let's see if it actually is. I'm pulling. Grab hold of the end and hold the base like this. Not with a death grip, but you may have to pull. And then give it a pull. And there you have it. It's not a dead lump after all. It's got some life in it. Now, let me tell you something that's great about long wools like this, Teeswater, Wensleydale, even some mohairs. There's never any waste. Even this stuff that I have gone through and pulled out all the good locks that I could find, I will take this piece of fleece and I will just lock spin it. I will take it to the wheel and just core spin it, pulling it out, letting the curls hang out. It is amazing. You will not waste hardly any of this. And that was kind of, when I started working with long wools, that was a really neat realization that I had, that I discovered. It's like, wow, there's not a lot of waste with a long wool. So here's another lock. We've got some veggie matter in there, a little bit, no big deal. Just hold it, where am I here? There, hold it at the base. Give it a gentle pull. There we go. Yes. And this is so addicting. Somebody needs to do like one of those ASMR up close videos of pulling locks. ASMR is this thing where the audio is really super clear and you can hear every little crack and crunch of pulling the lock. Maybe we should do that. Yeah. So that is how you do it. And like I say, there's going to be some fleece that you may not feel will give you good defined locks. And you know, another thing too about this technique is your locks don't even have to be that perfect. They can be a little fuzzy if you want them to be. They can be, you know, not top notch. They're gonna turn out great in this yarn. So, but if you do have fleece left that's just fuzzy and, you know, just kind of nondescript, no definition, spin it up. It'll be beautiful. Just spin it up as a core spun, lock spun, sort of letting the tips hang out. Just spin it up. Here we go. We're gonna pull another one. This lock is a bit large. I'm gonna break that one in half. So that's how we roll. So I'm going to show you guys a couple more times here, and then so you don't fall asleep and get bored, you know, just you know how spinning is. It's kind of like lather, rinse, and repeat. Ooh, here we go. So we want to start up again. You just want to identify again your loop and your free strand. Okay. Let's see here. One. I think I made it worse. Yeah. So, if you've had to quit, or if you've had to take a break, you're going to unhook your 3-ply, locate your loop and your free strand. And I like to put the loop between my forefinger and my next finger, and then I hold the free strand between those fingers. And that way I can hold it open. I can hold open the triangle to get those 3 strands there. So let's take one of our locks that we just pulled here. Why not? Find your cut end. Where are we here? Cut end as opposed to curly end. And you know you have a really good fleece when you can't tell the difference between your cut end and your curly end. That is a nice fleece. So we're just going to go over, under, over, under. And the first over, under we did, shove it up into that, where am I here? I'm off. There we go. I'm always off to the side. I don't know why. I'm going to shove it up into that ply up there. And then I'm going to grab your loop, start up your wheel. And keep an eye open too for your hooks catching, because even with an art yarn wheel, my wheel is a larger art yarn wheel, but I still get caught on the hooks. I still do. It's just, I guess, part of the deal with some wheels. So let's go a little further out here with the camera. See, again, I put that one in, shoved it right up there so that it stays tight. Then I go around, over, under, around, over, under again. There's my guy. Pull out your next loop and start up your wheel. And then get your triangle ready for the next one. So that is the gist of it, guys. I feel like if I show it one more time, you guys are gonna think I'm loopy. But, so these are the super fun yarns that we all, you know, want to wear as necklace. For sure. But I really, really appreciate you guys coming. Oh, I should go back and make sure that I'm not missing any comments. Oh, you're welcome, Jana. Let's see, when you put the chain ply down to pull more locks, take a break. How do you keep it from continuing the ply, blocking you from making the next chain? Well, I do put the clip on, you know, the clip that I showed, and it's really okay if you just let it go. What you need to do when you're ready to start back up again is, again, find your loop and find your free strand. And once you find your loop, you're good to go. You can find it, and you can, once you find it, you've got your triangle, you've got your 3 strands for weaving in your lock, and then you can pull that strand out and you're good to go again. So, short answer to your question, Diana, just look for that loop again. Find that loop, and then you're good to go. All right, I finally found you. I was waiting in the event. Gabrielle, I'm so sorry. There is always this big toss up as to whether we do the demo in the event or on the page, and I think the consensus was to do it on the page. I'm really sorry. One of these days we'll get all this Facebook stuff down. Of course, then they'll change it all again. But I'm glad that you found it, Gabrielle. And don't worry, the whole entire video, start to finish, will be on the WAFA page, so you can catch it there. So let me see. What else? No. Patrick is asking if the sound was okay. I didn't have any complaints, so finding the loop. Yes, Diana, finding the loop. All right, you guys, I love giving demonstrations for you guys because you're just so nice, and you know, I'm always over here with, you know, foot and mouth disease, saying stupid things, and but anyway, I am so glad that you guys joined me tonight for this. This is such a fun yarn. For so many different projects, so many different, and even for kids too. If you can show this to a kid who's interested in spinning, I think you're going to get a convert forever, because it's just so many fun things you can do. Thank you so much, and to see more from Fresh Lotus Design, this coming Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, join us for our live sale. I am going to have spinning kits. I'm going to have some new yarns, some old favorites in fiber that are beautiful colors, and hand-spun yarns as well. Lots of stuff. So be sure to join us. Again, that's Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Also, your website, you got events.
And yes,
workshops.
Be sure to check out our website too for our events, freshlotusdesign.com. I'm going to be teaching a lot of workshops this year. I'm really excited about. We're going to be teaching a new workshop that is all about sewing with your hand-spun yarn. And how does that all work? Well, must find out. Anyway, thank you again, Fresh Lotus Design. Be sure to join us Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard. Over and out. Thank you. And now I have to find where to turn it off. All right. Bye, everybody.